welcome back to the Flatten Your Fear Summit. This is all about getting past the things that are holding you back so you can experience a life you were designed for. And today I am bringing one of my heroes to talk to all of you guys, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. Welcome to the summit.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I have followed you for 20 years, and of course, you've done a lot more work than just 20 years, but for me personally, I've followed you. You are a physician, you are an educator, a consultant, an author, a speaker. What else can I add to that? My hero, so many things. And the reason I asked you to be on this summit is I want you to share with people two different aspects of fear. Maybe things you've learned in your own life. We can talk about that as you have really had this amazing medical journey and really fought for people's rights for medical freedom along the way, as you continue to do. But also because you are so versed in the human body, we want to talk about what fear does to the immune system, what fear does to us physically, because that whole aspect of our mindset is very, very connected, right? The way we think and what we experience in our body. So let's start with your background though, because I want people to understand your resume is so long I couldn't print it. So you know what you're talking about. Give people just a flavor of what you have done in your life and your experience.
Well, I started my first career was as an emergency medicine physician. So I was the director of the emergency department of a level 2 trauma center for 12 years. I was a full-time ER doc, plus I did all the administrative things. I was in charge of a 3-county EMS system that did transportation that involved the sheriff's department, the police department, the state highway patrol. And I started being the director of that emergency department when I was 29 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So I did that for 12 years. I moved to Cleveland, Ohio in 1996, and I opened a holistic and integrative medical clinic here that I'm always proud to say people have come from all 50 states and about 18 foreign countries to get well and get off their pharmaceutical drugs. Wow. Along the way, in September of 2000, I got just a flyer in the mail to attend the National Vaccine Information Center meeting in Washington, D.C. And for some reason, that flyer just couldn't leave my countertop. Every time I tried to throw it away, it ended up back on the countertop.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there must be somebody there important that I need to go and meet. So I went to the meeting not having any idea that it wasn't about somebody, it was about something. Yeah. And I sat through 4 days of listening to scientists and attorneys and physicians and parents of vaccinated children talking about problems with vaccines. And I left that meeting going, how did I miss this? How did I miss this in my education? You know, I've been a physician at that time by 15 years. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a chiropractic family. I had my father, my grandfather, 3 uncles and 2 cousins. I was not vaccinated as a kid, and I don't think any of my cousins were either. And we all had all the age-appropriate measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, pertussis. And so vaccines never really made my radar screen, except as an ER doc that I gave out tetanus shots like I thought they were some special kind of candy.
Right.
But I never did any of those catch-up shots or any of those things, even though I knew really nothing about it. And so I think that that's my background. And now that, you know, I've now spent over 20 years and 40,000 hours researching, writing, teaching, and talking about problems associated with vaccination. So when I talk about it, it's a studied opinion. It isn't something I just rolled over in bed one morning and said, maybe vaccines aren't so good.
Right.
I spent a lot of times doing that.
Right.
So I think in terms of my journey, I don't think I've ever really lived in a fear-based place. Maybe some of that comes from, you know, I grew up, I was pretty outgoing and strong, and my parents really encouraged me to do that when I was in high school and when I was in college. And then, you know, you graduate from medical school, you have to be pretty fearless when you're going to medical school to kind of put up with the physical and mental abuse that happens to become before as you become a physician. And then I went directly into emergency medicine, and, you know, seldom wrong, but never in doubt, you know, is sort of like the mantra that you have to just have a sense of confidence about you to deal with whatever comes through the door. And I worked in a level 2 trauma center. I worked in a lot of different ERs part-time, but my full-time job was a level 2 trauma center. It had 17 beds, and at any given Saturday afternoon, you could have every single bed filled with a fairly sick patient. And the box would go off, and it would be the ambulance service would say inbound with 6 critically injured patients from a car accident, and telling you what was happening. And then, you know, as you're reshuffling the deck, getting ready for that, a squawk box goes off again. full arrest coming in will hit your door in 5 minutes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I'm hardwired that way. And I think most ER docs are too, that do their job well. You're hardwired to handle a lot and to move laterally with your thinking. Specialists like orthopedic surgeons or neurosurgeons or obstetricians, they're very deep, they're silo deep in their education. But ER docs and family docs and general internists, we're lateral with our education.
Right.
And so I was always kind of a stress junkie. I mean, I loved the trauma. The bigger the trauma, the more stuff was going on, the better I performed.
Wow.
So I never really came from a fear-based place. And so I think that part of that whole thing about being fearless in your life comes from a sense of confidence.
Yes.
If you know your job or know the truth you're speaking, or you know what you're doing. I mean, imagine being a parent. You can't run around like second guessing every single thing you do with your kids.
No.
Again, it's seldom wrong, but never in doubt. I'm going to do the best that I can.
Yeah.
So I think that in terms of not living in a fear-based place, I think it comes from a sense of confidence. And when I sort of migrated into some of the vaccine thing, I knew what I was telling was the truth because I'd spent thousands of hours studying it and drilling down into that hole so that I could speak from a place of confidence that no matter what came at me. And I always also live from I'm a Christian and I have a deep-based spirituality. And so I always sort of operated from the place of sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me.
That's a good place to be, especially with what you do.
And so it never, so sometimes I say to people, so you want to talk about whatever thing is that's bothering you or that you're passionate about. Maybe it's GMO foods, maybe it's pesticides, maybe it's 5G, maybe it's vaccines, whatever it is, and then you're worried that somebody's going to unfriend you on Facebook and block you on Instagram. I mean, like, seriously, people, get over it. Right. And so it's all about standing in confidence in your truth and understanding. And if you make a mistake, own it. That was another thing my dad was like that. If you did something wrong or if you did something stupid, I mean, if you came in and said, Dad, we have to talk, and he'd give you the look. Yeah. I did whatever. Okay, don't do it again. And that was kind of the end of it because the punishment was having to come forth and confess it. Right?
So true. Right.
The punishment. But if I got caught, oh my gosh, hell hath no fury like my father in terms of just, I mean, he never beat me or anything, but taking away privileges and stuff like that. So, so that I think from my childhood sort of rolled over into my adulthood that, it's earth school. You make mistakes. Things aren't easy. You screw up. And so own it. Own it and make right by the person that you've unintentionally hurt or something that you did. I broke that. I'm really sorry. What can I do to fix it? Right. Whether it be a relationship or a physical object or something like that, own it and take responsibility for it. And once you take responsibility for it, you don't have to have any fear of consequences.
No, and those are some great gems. I mean, definitely, the fear is removed when you own the situation, when you own what you've done. It's not that you have to feel shame, but you're just honest about it, right? You own it.
And once you own it, it's like, and I also, because again, from my Christian background, it's like, I always look at things from what is the worst case scenario? Yeah. What is the worst thing that can happen? Oh, I could die? No big deal. Okay.
I'm okay.
Next thing I can move on, right? Yeah. But I do know that, and I make light when I shouldn't, because I do know that, the fear of death is huge for people. In fact, they've done those studies when they say that, the fear of death is number 2. Fear of public speaking is number 1.
Number 1. Yeah.
And so, so some people really do have a fear of death, but I've never had that. And so that didn't operate from a fear-based place. Fear of public shame. I had a lot of that when I was a kid growing up, and I just kind of got used to it. And again, operated from the place of sticks and stones can break break my bones, but names can never hurt me. Right. So you just kind of put a Teflon up around that. Don't internalize it. If somebody's throwing darts at you, they're throwing the darts. If somebody's throwing a ball at you, you don't have to catch it.
Right. Good.
You can either let it go by you or bounce off of you, or you can throw it back. Yeah. But you don't have to catch it. And so when people are throwing darts at you and trying to make you feel bad or make you feel fear or afraid or something, I'm not going to let that into my headspace. It's not coming in there. It's not happening.
It seems like for you, it's just so obvious and natural, but it's not for everyone. And I think what you're sharing is so helpful. And I'm hearing in all these interviews with high performers, every one of them almost has said, think about the worst case scenario, which is an interesting trait with high performers. But not only that, it's this, when you say confidence, the truth of it is you have paid the price. You have done the work. You have done the research. You have put in the hours. So that confidence is coming from a place of knowledge, from a place of work. So that when someone throws a dart, whether or not you want to deal with the dart, you're coming to that discussion, or you're coming to whatever that looks like on social media with the confidence of having done the work, right? This is not hubris. This is not, an inch deep. I mean, think about the hours you have put into what it is you believe and how you have helped people as a result of that sacrifice.
Yeah. And I think that one of the other things that comes from that confidence level is, you kind of like sometimes you have to feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, well, this is a little scary, but it's so important. I'm going to move it forward. I'm going to do it anyways. So I think that that's another really important element.
So when you got into the medical freedom movement, I'm going to call it that because it involves so many things, right? It's even food choice and all of these things. Did you ever for a moment question, oh, do I really want to do this? Because it's not always the popular place to be when you're speaking out against what would be considered the mainstream, right? For some people. So did you ever question that, or you just went in full steam ahead? Once you had that brochure, you went to that meeting and you thought, this is for me?
I've never been a follower. I've never been a, stick with the crowd and, keep your head down and be the small, the Australians have a phrase, they call it the tall poppy syndrome. And do you know about the tall poppy syndrome?
I've heard that said before.
And what it actually goes back to is historically when Australia was first started as a penal colony for Great Britain, when they would put everybody into the penal colony, if one person stood up and tried to rebel and became the tall poppy, not only did the tall poppy get their head chopped off, but everybody got punished equally. Yeah. So everybody learned to live in a submissive society. And I think that sometimes we think of ourselves as like water buffalo, right? Water buffalo kind of move in this pack. And the one water buffalo that runs off there by itself gets eaten by the lion. Well, I was always the one who was willing to challenge the lion, and it's just always kind of been that way, I would say, since probably the early 90s, that I just kind of felt that there has to be another side. And if I would have gone and taken a deep dive into all the vaccine research that I did and found that everything that the pro-vaccine propaganda, pro-vaccine statements try to tell us was the truth, then I would have said, listen, I've put 20,000 hours into this and everything that they said is absolutely spot on. All of you anti-vax people are nuts.
Right.
But the truth is I found just the opposite. That the deeper I went down into the rabbit hole and the more that I read, I think that early on, Elizabeth, why it became such an obsession and why I spent so much time in it is because I kept going inside of my head going, this can't possibly be.
Right.
This can't possibly be. If I read enough, if I research enough, sooner or later, I will agree with them. Sooner or later, I would find the evidence that says that vaccines are safe, effective, they're harmless, they're necessary. And actually, the further I went down into it, I kept finding the opposite of that. Yeah. And so that kind of gave me more like, I remember when I first started, I spent endless hours at the beginning. Like I would go to work from 9 to 6. I'd come home and I'd fix dinner and I'd run upstairs to my office, and from 7 at night till 3 in the morning, 7 days a week. I was like, because it was like an obsession. Like sooner or later I was going to figure this out. Right. Or sooner or later I would figure out that what they said was true. But wait, this, So I kept digging further down. So it got to the place, I called Kathy Williams after about 3 months, and Kathy Williams and Barbara Lowe Fisher are the two founders of the National Vaccine Information Center. And I said to Kathy, I said, surely, Kathy, if people just knew this information, surely this thing would just blow up and go away in like a week.
Right.
Oh, how naive I was, right?
How naive, right.
But I have at that point, I really didn't even have any understanding that people might come against me. I really didn't know that the powers that be would think that I was like UNICEF has declared me and my Facebook page one of the most dangerous Facebook pages on the planet. And UNICEF.
Oh my
UNICEF.
gosh, doctor.
And
Wow.
UNICEF said that Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is one of the most dangerous anti-vaxxers on the planet, and definitely in America. And I said, yes.
That's why
Mission
you,
accomplished.
that's why
Mission
you,
accomplished.
that's why you are who you are, because most people would go, oh my God, and they would shrink. But that's why, thank you for saying yes, because that just made you push forward, right?
Yeah, I thought, gosh, I wonder what the next level up is I could achieve.
Let's go.
Let's go. I'm the most dangerous person. What's next? What else? What other little tag can I get around my neck? Right.
Wow.
I never had any concern about it, only because, all the attacks that have been against me have all been behind my back. Nobody has ever said, and we've set up at least 4 or 5 different meetings, really well-structured meetings where we could put together a team of me, Del Bigtree, Bobby Kennedy, Rashid Buttar, whatever, over here on this side, and bring on your best pro-vaccine challengers over here. Paul Offit, Peter Hotez, whoever else, bring them on. And let's go on a public stage, have it be well-moderated, questions prepared in advance, no gotchas, no mudslinging, no anything. Let's just put out our information, let's put out their information, and let the people decide.
Yes.
We've tried at least 4 times in the recent past to set that up. And everybody on our side is willing to be respectful and let them talk. They just don't show up. Day of the meeting, the day of they just don't show up. And they use the excuse saying, if we entertain and if we debate, then we are giving credence to the fact that there is something worthy of debating.
Wow.
And so, my retort to that is always like, gee, if I was the pro-vaccine person on the planet, wouldn't I just love to have the opportunity to put the heel of my boot on the back of Sherry Tenpenny's neck in a public forum and grind her stuff to the ground?
Right.
And all the rest of us that are on this wagon over here. Wouldn't I love to just burn it up and blow it up publicly for everybody to see?
Yeah.
Well, instead, the only thing they have left is character assassination, name calling, and mudslinging.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any fear about that.
Wow. And that's the way, you know what though? I think God made you that way from day one, because he knew you needed to be that way. However it was you were raised, whatever way your personality was formed, that you could deal with that. Because I've seen the attacks. I've seen them over the years. I've seen the postings. And there are some people listening to this who can't handle that, who can't handle it when someone unfriends them on social media. You're so far past that, it's not even funny, but that ability to say, it doesn't matter, this is my mission. Like what you say isn't going to change what I have to finish here.
That's exactly right. And I would challenge each one of those people who felt that, dig back into your past. Go back into your childhood somewhere and figure out, by yourself or with the help of somebody that does maybe guided imagery or, somebody that helps you to do some, different sorts of things to explore. Where did that little kernel get planted into your head that it sprouted up and made this fear-based stuff in your life? And go in with some Roundup equivalent and kill it.
Yep.
Get rid of that. What made you have so important what other people thought? Yeah. Was it something to do with your mom, your dad, your sister? Who knows? There's always something somewhere, you know, and that makes you so concerned that I don't want anybody to look at me. I don't want anybody to know what my opinion is. And if they say something bad about me, it's so harmful. Well, it's only harmful because you let it in.
It's right. That's right.
If you just become like Teflon and say, I appreciate your opinion. Thank you very much. I guess we just have to agree to disagree on that and move on to something else.
Well,
not make such a big deal about it,
Right. And the other problem is that if you stop speaking, if you, Dr. Tenpenny, 20 years ago said, I'm not doing this, 18 years ago, when I first came into your world, and you had that, whatever that first attack looked like, or doubt or whatever, if you said, yeah, this is too hard, I'm not doing this, I, for one, would have a different life right now, just because of the information you provided. So people have said to me sometimes, when you have a strong opinion, why do you speak up about something like medical freedom? And I say, because someone did that for me. And if I don't do that for someone else, if I don't at least just say, hey, just look at it, and I think that's, you're somewhere I can point people to. And again, people have to do their own research. I always say to people, when you make a decision, and I know you've probably said this in your own words, make it from that piece. It's your decision. It has to be from your piece, not Dr. Tenpenny's piece, not my piece. It's got to be your own conviction, right? Isn't that important that we make those decisions based on the peace we feel inside?
Absolutely. And the more confident you are, and, you know, I got big, broad, wide, confident shoulders, not because I woke up yesterday morning and said, I'm going to put those on, but because I have, 40 years, I became director of the ER when I was 29. So that was 32 years ago. And so, it's a journey, and I would encourage each person to like pick one thing, small thing you might be afraid of, and address that little thing first and conquer that, and then widen the circle, then widen the circle and widen the circle. And each time that you accomplish that and conquer that, it gives you a little bit more confidence and a little bit more confidence, and confidence begets confidence, and confidence that negates fear. And so you can't start with like, let's take on the world tomorrow.
Right. No,
if you're concerned about somebody unfriending you on Facebook,
right.
It's too big of a step.
Yeah.
And so, God only gives us enough light to see the footsteps in front of us.
Nice.
Think about if you're on a dark country road where there's no ambient light and there's lots of trees, and it's night and you got your headlights on. The headlights only show so far ahead, so many feet ahead. That's kind of how much God gives you along the way, that much light, because you can't, it keeps you that much, because then the rest comes down to trust and faith, right?
Yes, that's right.
That you understand that God's going to keep the car on the road, and it's going to give you enough light. It's going to give you just what you need and not give you more than you can handle.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, we need a lot of trust and faith right now. We are, in a time that if I asked you last year at this time, are we going to be experiencing all the things that are going on? You would have said, what in the world? So here we are. It's stressful. There's a lot of fear out there. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, is to help people deal with it. As a medical doctor, we know that fear affects our immune system. And you know how our immune system works really, really well, because that's one of the things that you focus on. So what do people do when they're feeling that extreme fear? And how can you help them understand it shows up physically for you if you entertain it too long?
Well, the law of attraction works all the time, whether you believe in it or not.
That's right.
It does.
That's right.
So you get what you think about most of the time. So you get what you think about most of the time is what you get. So fear begets fear. So, early on in all of this COVID nonsense, I saw a meme that I really wanted to blow up and put on the side of my house. It said, turn off the television. It's spewing coronavirus.
Yeah.
And so that is really true. And I think that think about over and over and over and over and over and over again, and people were pummeled with this. Yeah. And I feel like for some people, it was like their brain was steel, and all of these things coming out of the television were little, it was a magnet, and all of these things coming were like stainless steel pellets. And they all just went into their brain and just like slammed into their brain. And it's like going to stay there. I mean, if the government came clean tomorrow and came up in front of everybody and said, we've analyzed the data and we were wrong. Take off your mask, go hug your friends. We're going to delete all this contact tracing crap off of your phone. We're not going to do it. I'm going to say that there's a 25, 30% of the population that would still wear masks, still wear goggles, because it's like their brain was this magnet and those steel pellets went in there. They are never, ever going to let them go, no matter what. They've been so traumatized. It's like PTSD, and no matter what you show them, no matter what evidence you tell them, no matter what, they are just traumatized over this to a level. And I kind of say about those people, and I say this with kindness and with love, we just kind of have to let those people sit over there and bless them and pray for them and hope that they will someday get it. Because right now we're in a time-critical, time-sensitive point in time, in universal time, that we can't spend a lot of time trying to unprogram those people. Right. The people that we need to be spending our time on are people that are not living in a fear-based place or have a little bit of fear, maybe a little anxiety, not exactly fear, and help to coach them and hold their hands and say, here's the real data, here's the real numbers, here's the stuff that's actually happening. You need to let that go. Yeah. And they are the people who are open enough to hear it, and open enough to analyze it and to say, some of the good news that have come out of this shutdown thing is that more people are paying attention to this whole vaccine development stuff than ever before. People that have never made their radar screen.
Yes.
People are paying attention to mathematical models that they've been 100% wrong on all of them. So now when they talk about other mathematical models, they go, what does that mean? Is that when false or true too? People that are kind of saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone here. Look around. I could go out in my community. And I mean, I live in Cleveland, Ohio. Nobody's paying attention to this mask thing around here.
Wow.
They'll wear the mask when they walk into the store, and people in the store take the mask off. Nobody's in the car. People are running, jogging, whatever, because they know how stupid it is. They know that this is destroying humanity. They know that social distancing. The first time I heard that, Elizabeth, I said, shit, you can't be serious. We're going to put that into our lexicon. People are going to take that in to be part of their normal vernacular language.
And now it is.
Thoughts are things and words have power. And now we're going to say, this is the new normal. I said, no, that's not going into my brain. Not going into my brain. I'm saying this is a temporary abnormal.
Yes.
I am not going to let that into my brain. I'm not going to become the new normal about this. So these are all little nuggets that I hope that some of your people will hear and start to internalize this. Again, it's that little step. The one little step is just saying, I'm not going to accept this as the new normal. I'm just not. I'm going to look at it as a temporary abnormal. What little pieces can I do? Well, maybe one of the most important first people that you can do is find out that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Who in your inner circle, who are the people that you're close to that you communicate with can be a partner. And it might be one person and then two, and then first thing it's 5 and then it's 10. We don't need 100% of people to buy into, to like say stop, which will never happen. We need 10%. 10%. That's pretty doable.
That is pretty doable. I think one of the worst things about what's going on here is that we're causing people to hate on other people. So the shaming about, well, you're not complying with everything. You're a bad person. That for me has been very frustrating because I seek out truth. So I'm a researcher. So I'm trying to find truth, right? And that's what people need to do. And it's hard to find right now, but it doesn't sort of gets put aside when people shame each other. And that's what I'm concerned about is if that's going to stay just like social distancing and all these things that they've put in our brain is going to stay as part of our experiences, that we shame each other. We look at each other with fear. That for me has been probably the most depressing, I'm going to use that word, aspect of this experience, to see that look in other people's eyes when they see each other out and about. How do we overcome that?
I think it's by more and more people saying no.
Yeah.
And again, that comes with confidence. And people, if people would just take a step back and see what they're giving up over nothing.
Yeah.
And once they take it away from us, they are not going to give it back.
No.
And I mean, that's just the way that it is. I mean, it's not going to happen. And I think that, somehow it's summits like this that you're doing. It's the citizen journalist. I say everybody's got a phone these days as a citizen journalist, that you can take video or you can record things and you can put it up on like our platform, which is disseminate.tv, which is non-censorable platforms that you can always house things there. You're never going to take it down like YouTube. You start seeing and start coming up with little sound bites that you feel that you can say from a place of confidence, that when somebody gives you that social shaming stuff, you could say, excuse me, I really appreciate your fear, but I don't happen to have it.
Right.
You can say, they're like, well, you're not wearing a mask, but you are. Don't you think it protects you?
Right.
I appreciate you trying to protect me, but I don't really need it. Thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like the vaccinated versus unvaccinated. If your kids are vaccinated and you think vaccines are work and protect your children, then why are you concerned about being around an unvaccinated child?
Right.
Isn't it the unvaccinated child that takes on the risk? Well, I appreciate your concern, but it has nothing to do with putting your children at risk.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with things that feel comfortable for you, that you feel confident, that you actually believe are true in your experience, right? I had a patient tell me in the office the other day, she goes, I don't wear a mask. And she said, I had kind of a heated interchange with somebody that came up to me the other day. And she said, I just stood back and said, I don't answer to you. I answer to a higher power.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
trust my immune system to be healthy. Well, you're not doing your socially responsible thing. Oh, but I am. I'm keeping myself very healthy. Thank you very much. I take
Right.
zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D, and I wash my hands, and I don't need to make myself sick by wearing this mask because you are making yourself sick. I guess
Yeah.
that's your choice.
Yeah.
You just say it in such a way that you don't escalate it. You just make a statement of fact, drop at the microphone, and walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we need to do. And really still love each other. If you choose to do what you choose to do, I can't do anything about that, but I just want to be allowed to operate from my place of faith and knowledge and information. And you are such a great resource of information. I want to encourage everybody to find your sites, read your books, but really follow you, because I think one of the key things here in getting to the other side of this. And I maintain hope, Dr. Tenpenny, that we can restore the, life as we knew it, and even better. But it's looking daunting, but that's going to take truth. So there are people like you who seek out truth, who provide truth if you want it, who provide data, who provide all of that, rational information. What's the best way for them to follow you, get more information from you as we continue to go through this, especially this interesting time?
Well, we have a lot of internet properties because we offer a lot of educational material. I feel like my pillar in this, in this whole vaccine movement has to do with education. So we do a lot with education. We have a twice a year, 8-week online boot camp that we do. We've got boot camp enrollment that's coming up in September. We have Vaccine U, which is short for Vaccine University, that has individual courses on vaccines for people to take. We have the Tenpenny Research Library that has over 12,000 articles from mainstream medical journals showing problems with vaccines. We have Disseminate.tv and Uniting.zone, which are our social media platforms that are secure. I have drtenpenny.com if you really want to find out more about me and my crazy stuff and listen to a lot of my video or a lot of my interviews that I've done. And so we have Vaxxter.com, which is our newsletter site and our newsy site that we hire lots of people to write for us. So instead of kind of remembering all those individual things, which is really pretty confusing, I have a consolidation website that puts them all in one place. And it's called coursesformastery.com. Courses, the number 4, mastery.com. When you land there, you can scroll down through the page and you can see all the different offerings that we have and figure out what's right for you. So that's like the main place where you can look at all my educational things. All that we do is at courses, the number 4 mastery, coursesformastery.com. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Tenpenny, and you can follow me on Twitter at Busy Dr. T. And on Facebook, it's Dr. Tenpenny on vaccines. So we're pretty busy over there on social media. We've got lots of cool sites.
Well, I know you're only going to get more and more busy. I feel better when I can sleep better at night knowing that you're fighting for us to find truth. And that's really what's hard right now, where everyone needs to find the truth about themselves, the truth about what's going on in this world, so we can make decisions from a place of faith and not of fear. I can't thank you enough. I could talk to you forever. And there's so many people who are excited to see this. Thank you again for supporting all of us and for doing what you have done and the sacrifices that you have made. And obviously you are walking in your purpose. So I honor you for that. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Hopefully we'll get to talk in the future, Dr. Tenpenny.
Okay, take care.